All right, so Taku Phil here with an update on the Beetle. Beetle's still coming along. Motor's just been finally rebuilt. We redoing the timing, brand new pulleys, brand new water pump, brand new head gasket, brand new main rear seal, um, brand new gaskets all around, brand new thermostat housing. Yeah, we took the heads to get machined. Uh, Cleaned up the old block. I mean, I got this motor from a '98 Forester, and here I got a photo of the motor. And basically, it was running no issues before. I got it from a guy who had a broken he had a broken water pump, and the rear seal, or not the rear seal, the thermostat housing was leaking, and the water pump had a bad seal on it. So we had it towed and all that stuff. So we took out the motor. As you can see, you got new pulleys, new tensioner, new belt, all that good stuff. Um, so the only thing is we still got to pull. We're pulling out the old motor from the Beetle, which was the EJ22 single overhead cam, and we're gonna go ahead and put in the EJ25 dual overhead cam. Get a little extra power out of it. I think the stock EJ22 from the '98 Impreza was, I think it was 145 horsepower with some of the mods. They said it was pushing about 150. But this EJ25 dual overhead cam is from a '98 Forester and should be pushing, I think, like around 175, give or take, a little bit more with the mods. I know with talking to some of the out front guys, they were saying with some basic tuning and computer stuff, you can easily get these guys up to about 200 horsepower stock without boost. So it's something I'm gonna play around with. Um, so this is actually the third motor that I had my hands on because I had a big issue that I came across when I decided to replace the motor. So when the first head gasket blew on my '97 EJ22, the issue was the head gasket blew, took one of the inner bearings with it, which damaged the freaking crank and damaged one of the pistons. So it was coming down to, if I really wanted to keep it stock or keep it the way it was, I was going to have to get a new block. And unfortunately, out here, you know, the Subaru motors are sort of weirdly specific to where I couldn't just swap it out with just any block. I had to have a '97 and '98 block from an EJ22 or an EJ25 single overhead cam. If I wanted to get crazy, then I could create a high compression motor and get the EJ25 block and put it in there. But it's kind of weird because it's really hard in my area to just find a spare block. You know, most of the cars that you're gonna get from salvage yards, there are tons of pre '98 or pre '99 Subarus in the yards that they look like they're in mid bloody condition. They're there because they have a blown head gasket, and blown head gasket was like $2,000, damn near $3,000 job if you weren't under warranty. I think even if you were under warranty, after a while, Subaru only gave you like a $500 credit to replace the damn head gasket. So we came across a good amount of viable motors that most likely were going to have the same issue as my motor, where sure, maybe it had a blown head gasket, which could be easily fixed, but we would literally have to tear down the entire motor to see if there was any rod knocks or any bad bearings, whatever. And it was just going to be too much of a headache, for $300 motor that we'd have to spend a day or two pulling. I was lucky enough that literally on the way to look for some motors, we came across an ad for a Forester that just had these radiator issues. That was running. We drove it around. It was running like a champ, and I decided, that unlike when I first started, it's just a good idea to go ahead and just do the new head gasket, and try to do a bit of a rebuild on it. Because yeah, you know, I throwing it in, and the main bearing seal did have a small leak, and you know, I was leaking oil, not much, but very little, and the damn head gasket went after I think maybe like a year of use. So now we're hopefully can get another couple 100,000 miles out of this new rebuild, and I decided to go with one of the best companies they had, was Six Star. Now, Six Star head gaskets are a little pricey. There's the Six Star head gasket right there. They're a little pricey. If you get the stock MLS, or if you want to go even cheaper, if you want to get like a Fel Pro head gasket set, it's going to run you probably, I think, like $60 or $70 tops. If you get the MLS, it will run you, I think, maybe like $90, you know, through eBay or Amazon. But if you go with the Six Stars, they're supposedly some of the best manufactured, with, you know, multi layers and multi all types of crazy shit that just makes it pretty future proof, or to an extent, a much heavier duty head gasket. You can get this guy. I got it from what was the name of the company? I don't know if it was Six Star. I'll have to look it up. I'll put a link down to it in my comments and stuff. So if you guys are interested, you can order it. But it runs about 120 with shipping. Uh, so it's a little more expensive. I think it's worth the extra money, and you know it's just been regarded as the best head gasket you can get for Subaru motors. Um, Obviously, you don't have to machine the heads when you put them together, but you might as well. I mean, I took mine to CarQuest, and CarQuest out here has a machine shop, and they machine the heads for just like $60. You know, it's nothing. You know, spend the extra $60, get it machined, which will reduce, you know, your chances of head gasket failure down the line. I mean, it took like literally like a couple hours. They had it. They freaking blew out the they did a compression test. They freaking um, completely washed them, and they pressure washed them, and then they machined them, and they checked all the specs. So real excited about getting those new heads on there, or those redone heads on there with the new head gasket, and getting this thing running. I mean, with this kind of head gasket, I know some people say that the 25s aren't the greatest motor when it comes to boosting because of their thinner heads, but it's not impossible. You know, you can easily get your hands on a stock Subaru boost, or a stock Subaru Turbo, and do a slight boost on it, probably nothing more than like 12 pounds, which can easily get you to like 200 and something horsepower, you know, with a healthy amount of torque. And I think with these head gaskets, you'd be pretty good. So that's the status of the Beetle. I'm going to keep you guys updated. Hopefully, this next week we should have it back together. Oh, so one of the important things that we did was because we went from a 97 Impreza Outback Sport to a 98 Forester. One of the great things that I was able to save a lot of time and money with was the wiring harness. You know, the wiring harness can be one of the most expensive or the least expensive items that you can have on your list. And I'm going to do another video about picking a motor wire harness here in a little bit, and I'll go over in detail some of the issues I came across with trying to find motors after my head gasket had blown. But you know, the great thing about this motor is because it is in that same 9798, and literally it's just 9798, where it pretty much uses the exact same ECU. It uses the exact same wire harness. I did swap out the ECU because I had a donor car. If you can use the EJ22 Phase 1 ECU with the EJ25 Phase 1. The only thing I've heard is a lot of people say that if you use the EJ22 with the EJ25 motor, is you lose a little overhead when it comes to revving. I think it's something, and it's nothing major. I think they said it's like you go from a max of 6,000, a red line of 6,000 RPM to like, I think like 6,700 RPM or 6,500 RPM. So you lose a little bit of the rev, but even that can be compensated, especially if you're, you know, doing all the crazy short exhaust, no cat, you know, high inflow air intake like mine's is. So you can easily make up for that. You know, you get a good amount of torque. So like I said, I'll keep you guys updated. Keep posting questions down in the comments, and we'll get you going. I love answering you guys' questions. I've been getting a ton of questions. Here's a this isn't mine, but this is how it's gonna look when it's all done. Here's the EJ25 dual overhead cam in the back of the Beetle. You do have to do a little cutting because you're going from the smaller single overhead cam motor to the larger dual overhead cam motor. So be aware of that if you decide to start off with an EJ25 dual overhead cam. It's a good amount of power, and if you take care of that motor, it'll get you up and going. But you do have to do some chopping. I know some people are hesitant to chopping up their Beetle. They want to try and preserve it as much as they can. But I think if you're going to be doing these kind of upgrades that make it a more fun car, personally, what's a little bit of chopping? You're going to be welding all this stuff back together. You're going to be bolting it back together. The entire rear end pretty much just bolts back together. Instead of using the lower rear end right here in the image that connects to the rear panel, that panel just bolts directly onto the fenders, so you don't have to worry about losing that rear end. All right, so that was just a little overview of my updates. Like I said, hopefully this weekend I'm going to check on the car. If not this weekend, the next weekend for sure. My buddy is helping me out. He's been working, so it's been hard to spend a lot of time on it as we're trying to get all this stuff done with limited time and in my part limited resources. And again, this is all a budget build. I got this motor. I got an entire donor car pretty much for $600, and that included a tow. And then I have several parts that I'm selling, so hopefully I can make that all back. I have some of the smaller parts. We junked the car already. So when all said and done, even if you don't junk the car, if you just try to get your hands on the motor and wire harness and ECU, not including the brackets, you should be able to get all this stuff done for less than $1,000. The brackets themselves can be pretty expensive. They can be like around $500, $600. That's one of the most. That's the second expensive part, and then like I said, the wiring can be the most expensive, and we're gonna go over that in a video, another video to answer a couple other questions people keep asking about hooking up the ECU and stuff. All right, so talk to you guys later. Keep comments, subscribe. Let people know. So Taco Phil here. I'll talk to you guys later.